Welcome to Dental All-Stars. I'm Eric Vickery, lead mastery coach at All-Star Dental Academy and president of Vickery Coaching. And I'm super excited, guys, to interview our guest today, Dr. Emily Letran. She's a serial entrepreneur. I love it. CEO of multiple dental practices. She's a private coach to many professionals. As an international speaker, she's been on TEDx. I'm so jealous of that. She shared the stages with countless business leaders, including Sharon Lechter, co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I love that book. Let's see, Dan Clark, Hall of Fame speaker, Dr. Howard Ferran of Dental Town, and Linda Miles, as you guys all know, the ultimate mentor in dentistry. She's been featured on several magazines, including Dental Town, Global Woman, CBON, as well as on media, Yahoo Finance, USA Today, and Fox. She's a contributing writer for Dental IQ, drbicuspid.com, and Dentistry Today. Dr. Letran is the founder of Exceptional Leverage, Inc., host of Action to Win seminars, and author of several books, as well as a certified Colby consultant. So welcome, Dr. Letran.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for creating this platform so we can share some of our stories and our insights. Yes.
Yeah. No, so glad to have you. As you know, we've been discussing stress a lot lately, and I really wanted to pick your brain on the subject. As you know, dentists they're not only wondering, for themselves about how to handle stress, but really for their team members as well. And so today we're going to talk about how do we stay productive, as a dental office without this just stress weighing on us and wondering, what's the future hold for us. And so we'll go through some points, and I hope provide some action items for our doctors so that they can really, put into action some great results. Okay. Yes. So my first question for you, Dr. Letran, is what do you think would be the biggest contributing factor to your success? Obviously you've done a lot. So how did you get here?
Well, I think there's always multiple factors to contributing to our success. But for me, I think part of it is the drive and the commitment to do certain things. And that most likely has to do with my personal story. I was actually born in Vietnam during the Vietnam War, the late 60s. And so I grew up during the war. I wasn't in the middle of the bombings or anything because I was in the city. That was the last stand before Vietnam fell into the communist hands. But every night watching on TV would be images of the war, right? There's always bombing, there's dead bodies, and there are people fleeing villages. My family always told me, hey, during the bombing of the TED, the offensive, um, your mom was pregnant and running into bomb shelter with you, right? and these are things that kind of stuck in your head, knowing that you have grown up during that kind of a period, and knowing obviously how much protection and kind of planning excuse me, kind of planning that your parents would have to do in order to survive that period. So, so I grew up like that, and then when I was 8, when when I was 8, that's when the communists took over, 1975, and it just turned life upside down. Um, the government control everything. When if you have a chance to read the book 1984, that's pretty much it, right? When Big Brother is always watching over you, even to the point of your personal relationship. And then a year after the communists took over, my mother passed away. And so we live in an extended family with my dad and his sisters, and they all have kids. And a couple of years later, the Vietnam was going to go to war again with Cambodia in the west and China in the north. And this is when you have that massive exodus of Vietnamese fleeing the country as refugees. And my aunt decided to leave at that time. She was taking her children and my older brother. They were drafting all the young men to go to war again. And my dad sent me with her because he said, even though, I'm a girl, but I got to go. I'm the oldest girl in the family, and I got to go help her. So I was 13 years old, left the country with her, and I never saw my dad again. So I think living, escaping on a boat for a week on the ocean and ending up in a refugee camp and living there for several months, where basically your main activity every day is getting in line to get one bucket of fresh water for your family. And because you live off that one bucket of fresh water and, just trying to learn English. That was those are the activities for several months in the refugee camp. So when I came to the United States, I think my luggage was just hope and faith, because you don't know what holds ahead for you. And for me as a kid, it, it was good as a kid because I didn't have the worries, right? I didn't know that much to worry. I can understand my aunt at that time would have worried a lot. But when I came to this country, my thing is always about, I got to live up to all that sacrifice that for my dad to be able to send me. For my aunt, she was a single parent and there were 7 kids with her here. Because we were all, a couple of us come from one family, a couple of us come from another family. So she was raising all of us. So it's always that feeling of, first of all, having gratitude, right? Recognizing the sacrifice. And then the second one is to give back because, as you know, somebody first comes to the country, especially as refugee, we don't have anything. So we've got a lot of things given to us. We we had the welfare, we had food stamps. I went to high school. I got my free lunches. Um, I I bike to school every day, and I could see other people driving their cars, and for lunchtime they take off and they go to restaurants, and I'm over here in this lunch, in this line. But all of those things, it just make me realize that there's only one way to go, which is up. Because where I'm starting, I didn't have anything, and that I know that the only way to go up was with education, right? Because I can't compete on other stuff. School is where I'm going to make a difference, give myself an edge. So I've always been very driven. When I was in school, actually, finished undergrad in 3 years, Phi Beta Kappa. Um, yeah, I still remember the school calling me, "Congratulations, you got Phi Beta Kappa." And then I said, "What is it? You know, uh, how much is it?" Because you imagine for in so many years, it's like focus on studying. Every time there's a break, I'm working, right? 2 weeks before spring break, I'm going to call up Apple One and say, "Hey, I'm available for a week. Where can you put me?" Right? During the summer, I would be taking a class in college in the morning, and then I would take a job, and then sometime I would go to evening class or the other way around. I can't remember, but I know I was always busy
Yeah.
because it's like there's a goal, right? There's a goal that you got to get a good job. You need to come out and help the family, and then I went to UCLA for 4 years. I finished my DDS and my master degree in the same 4 years. So once I come out, I was listening to. I remember listening to Dr. Woody Oakes, practice management. Actually, wasn't listening, was watching a VHS. And he said one of the way to grow fast is to buy another practice, right? Which is very true because you can simultaneously grow multiple locations instead of just doing one.
Yeah.
And now that I know my Kobe index, I understand why I did that. So uh, from 97 to 2004, I bought 3 practices.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, and then I have to move because the practice was growing. So there was tenant improvement. And so all these and dealing with the practice growth is one of those very true growing pains, right? Where you grow too fast and you haven't quite figured out what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then of course the family was growing. I have 3 children. My husband is an engineer, so he leaves in the morning and he comes back in the evening, right? And I would be going up in the morning, drop off the kids, go to work. Sometime in the middle of the afternoon, from 2 to 4, I would go pick them up. take them to either the babysitter. Sometime when they were older, they came to work with me.
Hmm.
And I came back and I worked for 2 hours from 4 to 6. And then I go pick them up and then we go home. And I think the management of all those tasks and the focus of, okay, I got to do three things. Which one do I give it the priority and still come out okay? Why would I not care if somebody says something about me? I still remember I had a patient who wrote a bad Yelp review, and the patient said, "What kind of dentist leave in the middle of the day to pick up kids and come back late?"
Mm.
Right? And I'm thinking, well, that would be my kind because sometimes when you come back, you hit traffic or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The kids get out at 2:30, so I have an hour and a half to pick them up and come back. But sometimes you walk in, 5 minutes late or whatever, and this particular patient was very picky. But what I learned is if that's important to me, then I don't care if the patient have that complaint,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
so I think it just build that resilience, knowing yourself, knowing what's important to you, sticking to that no matter what. And about 5 years ago, I decided to add high performance coaching to what I
Hmm.
do.
Hmm.
So to help doctors kind of figure out their mindset, how they're gonna run their lives, growing the business, and still have a great personal life and a business life. Because I think a lot of us go through that challenge where we say, okay, we're home and we're worrying about the office, and we're at the office, and we're feeling guilty about not being home or being with our kids. And since I've been through that, and I think I came up okay,
Hmm.
I decided I want to share that knowledge.
Yeah.
And of course, as you know, when we're running a dental office, we're dealing with the staff, right? Which
Hmm.
are a lot different personalities, and that's why I recently became a Kobe certified consultant, because that particular system would help us deal with the different, not personalities, but the different ways of people approaching tasks, where we're not going to stress everybody out.
Hmm.
And so I think I've been very, very fortunate, very blessed that I've been able to learn from different gurus and mentors, with Dr. Woody Oaks. And then I watched the 30 video tapes from Dr. Farhan,
Hmm.
or,
30-day
from
MBA.
30 Days MBA, got a big box. And I learned from Dr. Stevens at Kisco, Million Dollar Team, from all of those things and putting it together, and staying on path and being able to grow my practice and grow my family. My daughter is now in second year dental school at UCLA.
Nice.
So yeah, so
That's
it it's
awesome.
been a great journey.
That's awesome. So, and I'm just taking notes like you wouldn't believe here, but just to summarize some things. So I think, uh, in your success, if you had to define your success, I'm saying here gratitude, because you were able to recognize some sacrifice was being made, and you didn't take that for granted. You really were able to say, okay, I'm going to make something out of this. Obviously, you felt like education was where you could be competitive and where you found your drive. And then as things really came through, you realize, yeah, I gotta be really good at managing, prioritizing, and systematizing what it is that's about your practice and what's important to you with your family. So balance,
Yes.
and that's where you've got that high performance coaching mentality and drive. And so I think that's amazing. So I love that story. Um, what a you need have you written a book about this already? I know.
Of course.
Yeah, my
Yes,
goodness.
yes. I've written books about it. It's always part of my talk,
Yeah.
because sometimes when people see you, they just assume that you're just like a typical
Yeah,
person,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
You come from a middle class family or whatever it is.
Yeah. No, what a success story. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. So let's take that. And I want to know, I really want this time when they're spending their valuable time listening to podcasts to get something out of it they can tangibly apply. So
Yes.
I know that we've been talking about controlling stress. So what are some tips? Obviously you've had some stress in your life, but can you give us some tips about controlling stress?
Yes, of course. I think the very first thing for us to be able to control stress would be to have clarity. And clarity here, I mean to know what you want.
Hmm.
And we're not talking about, oh, just write down some goals, right? Which is always great. But clarity in the sense that is it in alignment with your values, right? And is it something that you're going to be proud about? And do you know how to get to that? So I'll give you an example. A lot of time I may talk to a colleague, and then they say, "Oh, I want $1 million
Hmm.
practice." And I would ask them, "Well, why $1 million?" Well, because everybody wants $1 million practice.
Hmm.
Well, then why don't you want a $5 million practice?
Yeah.
Why? Well, I don't know. But why do you even want a $1 million practice? Right? So, but if you say, and sometimes when I give them certain tips, let's say to increase their income, and they think, oh, this is all about money. Um, you're that kind of person. Well, it doesn't matter if you increase your net income, even though make you really rich. It's what you do with that money, right? What if you increase your net income, and what you do is you start a nonprofit, you give it away to your church or your
Hmm.
religious organization, which I do have a nonprofit. But what I'm saying is, if you don't understand what your goals are, like what you're gonna do with the money, then it sounds like, okay, getting a lot of money is like a greedy thing, right?
Hmm.
And that's what I mean by having the clarity is knowing exactly what you want and whether or not it's in alignment with your values. So in that case, you need to know your values also.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of time, it's hard for people to make a decision because they're not clear where they stand. Should I listen to this person or that person? Should I do this or should I do that? But if you're very clear on who you are and what you want, it just get a lot easier to make that decision, and it's a lot less stressful.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah.
good. Yeah,
And
the purpose
yes,
behind getting there. Yeah.
right, right. And then the energy. How much energy do you have? Of course, the all of us, we start in the morning at 9 o'clock, and then by 6 o'clock we're just so tired, and then we go home and we short temper with our spouse. The kids want to come and tell you whatever there is, and you don't feel like listening to it, or maybe you still have to cook dinner, and you're just so tired, right? And then maybe you forget, oh, I didn't do whatever such task from work. I forgot something. So my thing is about keeping your energy up every hour, right? Maybe you can take a short walk, just get out of your office, walk around the building, come back. Maybe you can just go to your room and just close your eyes, because we dentists, we're working using the loops, and we're just focusing like this all the time,
Mm.
right? So it's the same thing as when you're doing a long case. You just walk away from the patient just to get your eyes off of the case, and you come back in and you refocus. But this is to do it very intentionally, and that's the key word. Is, you know what, I'm going to give myself a 5 minutes break. I'm going to go drink water. I'm going to go sit down in my room for 5 minutes while they're sitting the next patient. I I want to keep up my energy so that I'm fresh at 6:30, 7 o'clock when I drive my car to my house. When I walk into my house, I need to give my family the energy that they deserve, and not the leftover energy that whatever already got drained, and now I'm bringing that home.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of time people get stressed. People get stressed out because they say, I'm home and I'm so tired and I feel guilty and I can't play with my kids. Or if I go to work and I have some situations like a babysitter situation, then I'm over here and I'm stressed, because the stress takes up a lot of your energy. And and everybody have stress. I'm not saying that we can totally get rid of stress. I'm talking about alleviating that, decreasing that, how to combat it, right? When you walk through an airport, I was actually flying yesterday. You walk through an airport, you see so many phones being plugged in because we are all afraid that our phones are going to die. So we need to recharge our phone.
Yeah.
And my question to the listeners is, when was the last time you recharged yourself?
It's good.
Yeah, when was the last time you say, I'm just going to take today off, or
Mm.
1 day off, because I need it. I need
Mm.
to recharge myself. Or I'm just going to do this particular vacation. I mean, for years, my youngest just finished high school, so starting college. But for years, my vacation is around their vacation time, right? Because it just makes sense to have the whole family do it. But what if I just say, I'm taking today off because I want today off. I need the time to recharge. I need the time to rest.
Yeah,
And,
sabbatical.
and yes, and thirdly is your productivity. And by productivity, what I mean is to prioritize things. Do not say yes to everything because people like us, when we have like a position in the community, then we tend to say yes, right?
Hmm.
Patient come and say, can you come to this, right? This meeting, and can you go to this fair? Can you do this? Can you do that? I have a client. She said, yeah, I go to chamber meeting every whatever morning, Tuesday morning, and I've been doing this for so many years, etc. And I said, well, do you have to go to the meeting yourself, or can somebody else go for you? Because once you establish that image, this is my dental office, this is how we practice, this is the kind of patient you cater to. I mean, you should be able to just switch and have your office manager go, right? Well, you don't have to go all the time. So thinking about how to leverage people, how to leverage resources, how to leverage the expertise of other people, right? Like having a coach or a mentor, or consultant. So that way you can put in the effort still, but you can maximize the result and the ROI. And that's how you're going to control stress. So I would say
Yeah,
having the clarity, having the energy, and know how to be productive.
that's great. Yeah, I've always said to clients, you want to be doing legally what you're obligated to do. And so if you can
Right.
have someone else doing those things, you got to be able to do that. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's leverage. I'd love that. And then I
Mm-hmm.
love what you said about the energy and just taking a break and going away. And I had this vision in my mind of what you're talking about. It's like when you're doing a puzzle, you lay a puzzle out on a table
Right.
and you can't figure
Right.
out where the pieces go, but you walk away for a while, you take a break, you rest your eyes, you come back and you go, oh, it's right there. And you grab the piece and you plug it in and it makes sense.
Right. Right.
I get it.
But
I get it.
to do it and to do it on a hourly or maybe every 2 hours, and make it very intentional, make it part of your day, right? I What I find is with productivity, it's just all about intention.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
somebody does more than somebody else in the same 24 hours is because they set out the intention, they have their agenda. I
Hmm.
need to accomplish these three things today, and if you're not part of the agenda, the answer is
Hmm.
no. Right? Right?
Yeah.
Unless it's an emergency,
Yeah.
right? I was joking about this, and I wasn't joking, but I realized that I was practicing this all this time before I got certified, I got trained. When I bought my first practice, this is back in 1997, I remember telling my staff, I only come to the phone for two people, the babysitter and the school. And they go, what if your husband called? And I said, what did I say? It's the babysitter and the school. So the husband is not even in the, don't come tell me, your husband's on the phone, because I'm not going to come to the phone.
Yeah.
Unless it's an emergency. But if it was
Mm.
school or babysitter, because it both have to do with the kids, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to make the decision. Okay,
Yeah.
then for those two, I will come to the
It's your
phone.
priority. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
other than that, take a message. Let me know when I'm done with the patient.
What's the there's that Punnett square, that four square where it's got your time, right? Important, not important, urgent, not urgent. And you
Right.
classify those things that way. And I think what you're saying is, yeah, it could be important, but it's not urgent, but when it's the kids, it's
Right.
it's important and it's urgent. It's
And
both.
and it's urgent. Yeah.
That's right. My
Yeah.
husband calls, it's unimportant, not urgent.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a story that the school called me one day at 2 o'clock, and school's out 2:30. They call me at 2 and they say, come pick up your kid. And I go, it's another 30 minutes. I'm gonna leave at 2:30. And I said, no, you need to come pick up your kid, because I said, what happened? And they said, well, I had a little accident in the pants. And here I am driving to school, and here's my kid. It was funny because he was sitting in the nurse's room, and on a bib, right? They put a bib and he sat on there. And I was looking at him and I said, what happened? And apparently we got too much fun during recess or whatever, so we did not go to the bathroom. during recess,
Oh yeah.
and then we had this accident. But
Yeah.
I still remember because I kept telling the school, no, I'm gonna be on my way in 30 minutes, and they say, no, you have to come pick it up right
Yeah.
now. So it's all about what you think is important for the school. That was very important. You got to go pick up
Mm,
your kid,
yeah.
right? And then even though you know that it's on list, I may be obligated to see the patients right now, but you also have to be a little bit adaptive,
Yeah.
uh, and understand that because some people,
Flexibility.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then some people it drive them crazy if they can't follow a rigid schedule.
Yeah.
But but if you know that sometimes things change, and you forgive yourself for, I forgive myself for coming back to work late 5 minutes when I was out picking up my kid, you know,
Sure.
because I know that that was important to me, and for whatever reason I was late. Some people just have that guilt all the
Yeah.
time because they think they have to be perfect.
And that it feels like stress. That guilt feels like
Yeah.
stress. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
it definitely will. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. So let's talk about some practical things here. What would you say is your go-to game plan to deal with the challenges we've been going through? I mean, 2020 has been so out there,
Hmm.
pandemic, there's this stress from that. There's the economy, there's stress from, what I lost, what's potential loss coming. So what would you say would be a game plan to deal with those types of challenges?
Well, there's always challenges, right? There's
Hmm.
the economy crashing in 2008,
Yeah,
and
eight,
then
nine, 10. Yeah,
they say it's going to crash again,
yeah.
right? And then this pandemic, whatever it is that happened, I go to this. I call it like my little blueprint. Uh, CAMP,
Hmm.
CAMP. So C stands for clarity, and we already touched a little bit on that.
Yep.
But let's say in the time of the pandemic, just for example, your clarity is what's most important to me and my family. For me, right? What's most important to me in my family? Sometimes I hear people asking the questions. Uh, I'm an associate, and I go to work, and they don't have the PPE that I
Mm,
need. Should I go to work or not? Right? For me, that would be something that visit your clarity, visit
yeah.
what's most important to you. I would tell the person, well, buy your own PPE. They're not
Yeah.
going to provide to you. Just buy it yourself, right? So when the pandemic first hit, that's what I think about. What's most important for me, for my patients, for my staff, for my family,
Yeah.
and I make plans accordingly. Uh,
That's how you take action off of that.
yeah,
You know what your answers are.
right. I have a seven operatory office, but yes, I'm going to schedule one patient at a time,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's what's recommended. Am I frustrated as hell? Because usually I can see three, four patients at a time.
Yeah.
Somebody could be taking X-rays, uh, but now I can't do that. But what's most important to me, right?
Mm,
Again, going back to the clarity, knowing what's most important during this trying time, safety is important, right? I could bring the patients in and sit them in every other room, and I would be perfectly fine. But then the patient perception is, no, I'm not safe. I remember the lady walk into the room. She has a 2 o'clock appointment. The 1 o'clock appointment was leaving, and then there was somebody who walked in for like a denture adjustment, and she just threw a fit because she told me, Dr. Letran, you have three people in the waiting room. and it was and it was like, well, this person was just about leaving, and you were just about coming in. And I mean, I could do that texting thing where you're gonna come in, but
yeah.
I choose not to do that just
Hmm.
because I know I was already booking one at a time. So
Yeah.
it's and then people decided to come in early. I can't control that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But knowing what's most important to you would dictate your course of action.
Okay.
And we
So
touch on,
clarity, and then are you saying so camp? So then clarity number two is action then?
yes, number
I
two
got
is
you.
action, and the
Okay.
action here, what I'm talking about is action leveraging your natural talents, and that's where the Kobe system come in,
Okay.
because all of us have our natural tendency to do things, right? Some of us are very detail oriented. In the Kobe, we call those the fact finders. Some of us are very, very quick. We make quick decisions. We like to try new things. We take risks. Those are the quick start. So if, like in my particular case, I'm the dentist. I'm a quick start. The rest of my staff are all fact finders. Every time I introduce a new thing, I remember we were the first office since a long time ago to have an iTero, right? We were in Southern California. There were, I think there were 2 labs in Southern California that you could send your case to, and otherwise you outsource. You send it to a different lab out of state,
Mm-hmm.
and the staff are like, well, why are we doing this, right? And here you are, you have to answer them, explain all these things to them. For me, it was like, it's really cool. And they LVI is getting this, so I'm getting this, right? And it may not be scientific based, but because I'm a quick start, I just jump on. Yeah, I like to try new things. I'm going to do this. This is supposed to be cutting edge. So those kind of things, if I understand my natural instinct and my mode of operation, that's where I go to. But the rest of my team are kind of the opposite direction. Then I need to know how I should present things to them. I need to give
Mm-hmm.
them enough facts so they don't get stressed out, because I just tend to try new things.
Yeah.
Um, I they used to call me one year at the Christmas party. They gave me a certificate because we recognize important individuals in the office and stuff, and they gave me here's your certificate, and it say Dr. Emily Letran, multi personality.
It's like your own Dundee Awards or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. And once I understand the Kobe, I understood why, right?
Yeah,
Because I just like to try this, do this. Let's
you're
change
moving.
this. Yeah, let's change this today. See if it get better.
Yeah.
Digital digital X-ray. I just go from one day to the other. Okay, we're gonna throw away all the films and all the film holders, and this is it.
Moving.
And yeah, so when you understand people like that, and you give people the opportunity to operate in their most natural way,
Yeah.
you just have less stress, and you just have more productivity.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very similar to Strength Finder and knowing what your
Hmm.
strengths are and what everybody else's strengths
Right.
are and surrounding yourself and just maximizing what everybody else can do instead
Hmm.
of, shunning it or not letting their light shine, bring them up to a level of, hey, you're an expert in that, so let's use your strengths. I love it.
Right.
So your action is leveraged with the talents and instincts of others. Okay. So
Yes.
so
And M stands
um,
for metrics.
metrics. Oh, I love
Yes.
metrics. KPIs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And specifically, if you want in a time of challenge, right?
Hmm.
The metrics I'm talking about are the ones that are going to grow your business,
Yeah.
right? So the number of new patients,
Hmm.
the number of referrals, how is your recall, your retention rate? Where are you spending your dollar money to get your valuable new patient? How much,
Yeah.
what is the cost of acquisition
Exactly.
for a patient, and what is the average value of a new patient, right?
Yep.
Because people sometimes, some of us, we just sort of throwing money out there and see where it comes from,
And not
and
tracking it.
and not tracking it, and
Yeah.
then one more company come and tell you we can do this, but it's going to be $2,000 a month, and you go, well, that's too much.
Yeah.
But maybe what you forgot to look at is your average value per new patient could be $3,000, or
Mm.
maybe $2,000. All you need to do is bring in one new patient, and you'll break even, right?
Hmm.
And we're stuck on the $2,000 mark. And if we actually track, let's say a lot of your new patients come from referral, then do you want to spend 2000 here, or I would rather spend 2000 and do a patient appreciation event. I mean, not during the pandemic, but that's what I do. I do a
Hmm.
I do a patient appreciation event every year, and it just make you feel so humble. I could have maybe 20 patients in there, and with their family we end up with maybe close to 100 people,
Mm.
but they represent a couple hundred thousand, right, dollars of revenue just in that room,
Mm.
because they are the most, uh, the patients who have spent a lot of money, or the patients who have referred a lot of patients.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and it's better to spend that $2,000 on those particular people than maybe on Facebook ads. And that just as an example. So
Sure.
when you know your metrics, it's easy to say, no, I'm going to put the money here,
Yeah.
right? And I know, because I know it's going to generate the income, it's going to generate the return. Well, how do you know? Because I've been tracking it every
That's
year.
right.
you
That's
know.
right.
So
Yeah.
and the P is again, it's about productivity. It's about leveraging. I can't tell you how many times we talk to colleagues and they just can't let go. They have to know everything. They have to do everything.
Mm.
They don't want to delegate,
Delegating.
right?
Yeah.
They it's like they don't, it's like they don't trust the staff. But you know, a lot of time when you don't trust people, it's sort of your personal growth issue that you don't, you have a tendency to question other people. Maybe sometimes you're not even sure about yourself.
Yeah.
So it has to do with confidence your confidence level. And sometimes, and I tell people all the time, sometimes you don't trust your staff to do things right. Okay, I give you that, but did you actually train them? And did you actually tell them what you're expecting out of them? I talk to groups of staff, and when I ask them, okay, do you know what your doctor's goal is for the year?
They don't know. Yeah. Sometimes the
Do,
doctor doesn't
do
know.
you? Well, but you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you talk to the doctor and they say, yeah, I want $1 million practice. That means every month I got to do this much,
Yeah.
and this is the net. And you know, they they tell you all the numbers, but it's all in their head. And the manager doesn't know it. The staff don't know it. The spouse don't know it. If you went from 800 to 1 million, that's like a 20% or whatever increase, right? It's going to take some work. Maybe you're going to be stuck in the office sometime. Maybe you're going to have to do some training. And when you take off and you're not home, does your spouse understand what the heck you're trying to do?
Yeah.
Right? So you gotta, you want to be productive, you gotta share what your goals are so you can get people to support you in getting to those goals. And I think a lot of times that's where the stress is. We want things, we don't want to share, we don't want people to support us, we're not asking for help, we're not leveraging other
I think that's
people's
huge.
strength.
Yeah.
And then you're frustrated and you think you're alone.
Yeah.
And a lot of time you're not alone.
Yeah. I would say too, figure out where if you're having a negative emotion,
Hmm.
frustration, uh, you're feeling that as a stress, you got to work your way back in the timeline and figure out, well, where is this coming from? Is it coming
Hmm.
from, I feel like I don't have enough money? Well, why don't you have enough money? Then you dig a little deeper, and
Right,
maybe you don't
right,
know. If you don't know the answer to that, you're not tracking. One of my favorite trackers I use is what you were just talking about, the new patient by source. And then I plug in, what do we spend per month on that source? So we know
right.
what is the cost of that new patient to come into the practice. And sometimes I show that to doctors, and like, I had no idea I was spending so much money on this and getting so little on my return. That is
Right,
adding to the stress, because if you don't have enough
right,
money at the end of your month, you realize, well, this isn't a great source, but this right here is. Even though this might be more expensive, it's still a great
right,
source. I love it.
right,
Yeah.
right. So if you make the decision based on math and
Yeah.
numbers and not emotions,
Yep.
it it's just so much easier. And you can always go back and tell yourself, oh, I said that because of these numbers, right? If you base it on emotion, you don't remember your state
No,
of emotion that day, why
that's
you
right.
decided to do certain things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You have to seek out that intuition. You have to see where it's coming from, but you need to be able to justify it with the stuff that makes sense in the numbers. I totally get it. So camp, I got clarity, action, metrics, and productivity. And especially I think right now, the productivity with lowering your stress means delegating so you can focus on what's important to you. I love that. It's great.
yeah, and some of the doctors, I think during the pandemic, if you're in the social media group, they have extra time, so they say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna try to learn this, like
Mm,
do a website." Why?
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I would rather you dig in and see, look at your patient numbers,
Yep.
right? Look at your retention,
Yeah.
and and try to go back and visit. People would say all the time, "How do I increase, my production?" Maybe it's the way you diagnose. Do you diagnose enough?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get enough training where you diagnose, give them a comprehensive
Yeah.
diagnosis, right? and
Yep.
then what can you add on to it to increase that production? There's talk. I love it. Well, I don't love it, but dentists would say, we don't sell. I don't sell dentistry. I don't care what you call it. You're selling, right?
Case presentation.
Yeah, that is selling. Well, I
That's
only
right.
I only educate my patient. Well, if you're just educated, you're not going to ask for money.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm a very bottom line person, right? So if you say the word sell, everybody understand whatever you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I might as well just use that word.
Yep.
And again, if you make more money, let's say you're able to pay your staff more, or you give them a bonus, and it makes a difference in their lives because they can buy more stuff for their kids. They can take the kids on a vacation, whatever it is, where there's extrinsic benefit. It's
Yeah.
not just for you, for other people improving their lives.
It
Then
trickles
I
down.
then I
Yeah.
think the drive is a little better. Like I would feel more empowered and more inspired to do that because I know I'm going to change lives rather
Yeah.
than I want to increase my case acceptance. From
Yeah.
this to this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will just say this because you're getting me thinking here. Two things. One, selling is a term that those in dentistry try to avoid, and they try to disguise it with things like case acceptance or case presentation. Well, what you want to do is avoid pressure selling. You're still selling in a great way, and there
Right.
is no such thing as educate the patient and they'll do what's in their best interest. That only works to a certain level. People will not go beyond their comfort level with spending as little as possible when they don't understand the whole perspective of it, as well as people buy for their reasons. So you got to connect all these things. The other thing
Right.
you got me thinking about again is there's only two ways to grow a practice in the metrics. You mentioned it, more new patients. And that's one way. And that, I think everybody knows that, oh, get more new patients. Basically what that means is more patients in the practice. They could be
Right.
overdue hygiene patients. They could be people you haven't seen in a while. It doesn't necessarily have to be just new patients, but more patients to a certain level. There's a law of diminishing return. Too many, and it's going to hurt you, right? All
Right.
of a sudden now
Right.
we're not doing it because number two, the second way to grow a practice is more dentistry per visit. So if I'm
Mhm.
doing I'm seeing a ton of patients, I'm doing a lot of little things, I'm going to be stressed out. I'm not going to have that
Right.
energy. I'm going to be worn out. When really what I want to do is do all that dentistry on one or two or three patients in the morning and the same thing in the afternoon. Does that align with what you think?
Yes, and actually, I usually say those two things plus one more thing,
Okay.
which is the frequency of the visit.
Mm,
So, recalls, right? Excuse me. If somebody is diabetic, excuse me, somebody's diabetic, you're gonna recommend, you know what, come in every 3 months,
mm,
and all of a sudden you add two more recalls,
yeah.
and I mean whatever the number could be.
Yeah. Sure.
You can also add that. Um, it's like the example I usually give is look at McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
How many times they come out with a new thing, and they just get you to come in
Come
more
back.
often,
Yeah.
and every time you come in, then they add, let's add more fries, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So now they get you to come in more often, and then you're buying more.
Yeah.
So if you can get your patient to come in more often for whatever
That's,
ethical
yep.
reason, right?
Yeah.
Then you do that. Somebody who you just done a great cosmetic case,
Yeah.
um, tell them to come in every 4 months. Add one more of your recall appointment, and then of course when they come in, it's not just you. See, the doctors sometimes they say, "Well, we don't want the hygienist to sell. My hygienist don't sell." Well, personally, I got rid of hygienists if they don't sell.
Mm. Yeah.
Because that's my reason for having the hygienist, having one more person in the office that the patient trusts, and presenting treatment that they see. Of course it's going to be verified by you, but the conversation could be, do you know that your smile is crooked? And the patient say no. Well, look at the mirror.
Yeah.
It's actually
Start out
kind of
somewhere.
crooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can fix this. You know that your teeth are crooked? No. Well, look at the lower front teeth. They're
Yeah.
crooked, right? So having this kind of conversation where they're gonna plant the seeds, or maybe we already talk about Invisalign, and then the patient come in for recall, and the hygienist is right there.
Supporting that.
Well, yeah, last time we talked about Invisalign. Are you
Yeah.
ready to start? I have patients. I have two patients who started Invisalign during this pandemic.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just come in and say, okay, about that Invisalign you talk about,
Ready.
I'm ready. And I'm
Yeah.
looking at it,
Yep.
Okay, if you're ready, I'm good to
Let's
go.
do it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome. I love it. I
yeah,
love it.
yeah.
Well, I know there's more. I want to have you back on to talk about Kobe. I grew up
Okay.
with disc, and I want to talk about the difference and the similarities between disc and Kobe. So why don't we let's cover that next time? Can I get you back on?
Of course, of course.
All
I would
right.
love to be back on to share
Yeah,
some of my insights with our friends and colleagues.
that'd be amazing. I'd love to do that. In the meantime, you guys can reach Dr. Letran at americandreamcoach.com. And so, just in wrapping up, I want to say thank you so much to you, Dr. Letran. I also want to thank those of you that are listening for joining us, because I know you've taken time out of your schedule to invest in yourself. And so, hopefully, you got action out of this. You have some clarity on what you want to do. So, until next time, go out there and be an all-star.